was mostly dropping.
Good. Okay, let's have a look at the next image.
Mm-hmm.
What was this lesson about?
This lesson was about, so after one of the lessons, I've realized that they mix up simple words from elementary level words like work, walk, talk, I don't know, turn, tone. And they rely a lot on the context. But when they hear words separately, they can't sometimes distinguish between and or, though they are high-level students. So I gave them basically a phonetic dictation. I gave them the words, minimal pairs, and I asked them to write down the words that they hear and transcribe the vowel sounds. And as you can see, I first planned to give them 5 words only, but then I realized that they mixed up and or. That's why I gave them talk and Turk. And surprisingly, they mixed up long U and short U. And yeah, that's why I gave them. It was on the spot decision. And U and A also they mixed up. And I gave them this dictation, and I asked them to open they always have their phonemic chart on their phones. So they opened the phonemic chart, they used it, they always use it as a map, as a tool. They don't know the sounds by heart, they don't have to know the sounds by heart. So they use the phonemic chart, they transcribed the sounds they hear, they worked in pairs, they compared, they pronounced and repeated the words over and over again so that they could hear. So that was, and on the basis of this, we had a listening text where there were some of the words that are on the board, and it turned out that it was easier for them afterwards to hear the words in a sentence.
So that's really interesting. You've got 2 approaches here. You've got more a top-down approach where you're taking sentences and deconstructing them, although not deconstructing them, but drawing attention to how the stream of speech kind of gets mushed up, as you say. But though you're also looking at the individual sounds and the differences between words is another way of helping them develop their listening. So it's kind of a 2-pronged approach, which is great. Yes. And what do you think? What kind of feedback have you seen from the learners or got from the learners about these experiments or this research that you've been doing?
I should say that the whole project that I, as you see, I didn't mention that. So it says my listening lab. It was my 6th lesson, and where when I started introducing this micro listening approach, where I did different listening, I would say segmental and prosodic procedures to develop the listening skills. This was my 6th lesson, and I realized that it takes a huge part of my lessons, this listening part, or this pronunciation work that we do, and I called my lessons my listening lab. And after I think after the 8th lesson, they said, "Oh, are we going to have my listening lab again?" So it became their favorite part of the lesson, because I think it gave them a very handy tool. I tried to give them tools to work with authentic materials and to work so they knew what to do if they can't decipher, they can't understand, and what things they have to pay attention to when they can't decipher a sentence or they can't decipher what the speaker is saying.
Yeah.
So
when you started this, I'm really interested, because it might sound to some teachers quite daunting, this, because you're talking about pronunciation and phonology in quite a lot of detail. And so what was your starting point? Did you do some reading around this? Did you look at websites? Did you look at journals? Where did you get all the ideas for this research? And what advice might you give to teachers who are interested in what you're doing?
Well, I read a lot of blogs. There are lots of blogs on, and your blog too. I read your blog where Mark spoke about connected speech, where you spoke about stress. We didn't discuss stress here, but I do stress as part of my presentation, vocabulary presentation part of the lessons. So there are lots of blogs, listening blogs and pronunciation blogs on the internet. I read Adrian Underhill, I read Caldwell, I read, these are the two main. I read, of course, John Field's book, which is the Bible for micro listening. It was a little bit daunting at the beginning, but I think my advice would be not to be scared and just to start from little things. So if you feel comfortable with segmental work, if you feel comfortable with sounds, and it would be also useful for the students. You should start with small things. You can't start with features of connected speech immediately, straight away, out of the blue. No, I think it's easier to start with first the phonemic chart. Give them a short overview what it is. 3 minutes, 4 minutes, not more. Otherwise, it would be daunting for the students too. It would be too much and they won't be interested. So you have to feel where this attention span is going down when it's going down. So they have to be interested. It has to be captivating. So I would advise to start with small things, with segmental level, with sounds, maybe with minimal tests, and maybe with some games. There are loads of games on the internet by Mark Hancock, for example. We played battleships with them. And then when it comes to authentic materials, choose, I don't know, maybe 30 seconds. 30 seconds of the most complicated bit of the listening text. And stop and listen to it as many times as possible and just write down what you hear. And if they, what I did with my students, if they didn't understand what they hear, they just transcribed what they heard. So if they just heard separate sounds, they transcribed separate sounds. And then we tried to work out step by step what these sounds meant, what could it be, based on different approaches.
That's quite empowering, isn't it? Because they can use their other knowledge that they have. They can use their knowledge of vocabulary, their knowledge of grammar to kind of make sense of what they're hearing. And I think that helps them to feel more confident about and more encouraged, as you say, to listen to things out of class. Great.
But I think sometimes the students should also be encouraged by the teacher. And as you said, they used all their knowledge, the vocabulary knowledge and their background knowledge, but very often they don't use it, they forget about it, because when they hear something they can't decipher, their mind blocks and they just say, I don't understand, full stop. So maybe we need to encourage and say, so maybe look at the context, look at what the speaker is saying, or maybe look at the body language, or look at the topic of the listening. So we need to encourage to show them what they need to look at and what knowledge they can use to guess the word that they don't hear or don't understand.
But what's interesting is here you're giving them another tool, which is the pronunciation tool, which if we don't give them that tool as well, then we're depriving them of that kind of energy and that tool to kind of work out what is going on when they listen. They can use context, they can use their knowledge of vocabulary and grammar, but they need the pronunciation work as well, don't they?
Yes, absolutely. Because I agree, completely agree with you here.
Good. Okay. Well, I think we can finish there. We've covered a lot, and I think this will be really encouraging for other teachers to hear. So thank you so much for taking part. And I'll be in touch with you soon about the rest of your research.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.